My husband Connor and I have always been huge horror aficionados. Ever since I was a child, I've been a fan of the gruesome and the macabre. Almost anything goes. Almost. Connor knows that I only have one rule when it comes to Halloween. No clowns and absolutely no Ouija boards. Not in the house, not in the yard, not in the forest behind our home. But apparently, even though I've been drilling it into him since we started dating, that was too difficult for him to understand. "Hey babe, I'm home," Connor said, tossing his keys into the bowl by the door. "Welcome back," I replied from my place on the couch. "So you'll never guess what I won as a prize at work today," he said as he rounded the corner. My heart dropped the second he came into view. "No, get it out of my house," I snapped, pointing to the door. Connor's expression dropped, the Ouija board falling to his side. But I thought it'd be fun, just this once. I made direct eye contact with him, a raging fire in my eyes. "Connor, you know how I feel about Ouija boards. I had a traumatic experience when I was a kid. Now please do as I ask and get it out of the house. I don't want that thing anywhere near me." Connor sighed. "Fine, you win. It's going back in my truck," he said, disappearing from view. I picked up my wine glass and took a large swig. I love that man, but he really knows how to push my buttons. We both had off work the next day. We were each hanging out with separate friend groups, so I didn't know what he was up to. I trusted him. Part of me wishes I hadn't. His poor decisions that night changed our lives forever. When Connor got home, it was nearly 3 in the morning. The kids had spent the night at their grandparents' house, so it was just the two of us. I thought that maybe after Connor tumbled into bed, we might have a little time to be intimate. I was dead wrong. I was already lying down by the time Connor walked through the door. I had been snuggled under the covers with the lights off, doom scrolling on Instagram and waiting to make sure that he made it home safely. I listened as the front door opened and shut. Then I heard the faint creak of the stairs. It sounded like he was trying to be quiet, which I appreciated. He was being considerate because I might be asleep. Now I know that wasn't the reason. The footsteps stopped just outside the room. I heard shuffling as if someone was pacing back and forth. I kept expecting the door to open and for my husband to be standing there, a big goofy grin plastered across his face. But that didn't happen. I wanted to yell out to him or turn on the bedside lamp, but it felt wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that if I took my eyes off the door for even a second, something bad was going to happen. I don't know how long I sat there in the dark, illuminated by nothing by my phone screen. Then, just as I thought my heart might explode from anticipation, it happened. The doorknob started to turn. The door creaked open and I could make out the silhouette of my husband standing in the entryway. He didn't say a word to me. He bolted over to the bed, kicked off his shoes, and threw himself beneath the covers, facing the wall. I was stunned. It had all happened so fast. "Honey, is everything okay?" He didn't answer, he just nodded his head. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. This behavior wasn't like the Connor that I knew. I stared at him, waiting for him to say something, to give me some sort of explanation. But he didn't move. He just stayed there, still as a statue. I didn't take my eyes off him until I heard him start to snore. Eventually, I lulled myself into a false sense of security. I had to in order to get to sleep. I told myself that Connor was just wasted. His friends did drink quite a bit when they hung out. That thought helped put my mind at ease. Until the next morning. I awoke to find his side of the bed empty. The smell of bacon wafting upstairs from the kitchen immediately caught my attention. My assumption about him must have been correct. Connor was hungover and needed some greasy food to get himself back to normal. I took my time getting ready before meeting him in the kitchen. He had his back to me when I took a seat at the table, a plate full of bacon sitting beside him on the counter. "Morning," he said, flipping a pancake. "Morning. You want to tell me what all that was about last night?" I replied, eyeing him. He turned to face me, his brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "What do you mean, what do I mean? You came up to our room last night acting really weird. You didn't say a word to me, then you went to sleep with your clothes on." "Huh, I don't remember that. Must have been more drunk than I thought." There it was. I had no reason to worry. "Thought so. How did the boys' night go?" I asked, standing to brew myself a cup of coffee. "Decent. We got wasted and played with that Ouija board I won. Don't worry, I left it at Mike's house." My stomach dropped. "Oh really, and did you contact anything?" I dreaded his answer. My throat had gone dry and I suddenly found myself clinging to every word. "I thought we did at one point, but I'm pretty sure it was just Aaron moving the planchette. He tried to pretend like it was this entity called Mr. Pip. So stupid, right?" A cold sweat enveloped my entire body at the mention of that name. I had to sit down to stop myself from passing out. "No," I muttered, head in my hands. "This can't be happening. Not again." Connor seemed okay after that. For the next week, I searched for any indication that he wasn't right. Something to clue me in that this thing had returned. I watched him like a hawk. The only thing out of the ordinary was that Connor stayed in the bathroom for a suspiciously long time one day after work. But it turned out that it was just constipation from the Taco Bell he'd eaten at lunch. Nothing paranormal about that. After a whole week passed, I let myself believe that Friday night was just a fluke. I should have been more careful. I came home that Monday after a grueling shift, ready to turn on a rom-com and pour myself a glass of Cabaret. "I'm home," I shouted, kicking off my shoes. I received no response. That was odd. The kids should have been there and Connor's car was in the driveway. I rounded the corner to the kitchen, brows knitted in confusion. My heart dropped when I found Alice and Tommy sitting at the table, their faces pale as sheets. "Mom," Tommy whispered. His voice was low as if he was afraid to speak too loudly. "What is it, sweetie? What's wrong?" I said, rushing over to him. "It's Daddy," Alice interjected. She was choking back tears. "He's being really scary. He told us to stay here and wait for him to get done." I was suddenly blanketed in a cold wave of dread. I didn't like where this was going. "He didn't hurt you, did he?" I asked, studying their expressions. They both shook their heads no. I breathed a sigh of relief. "All right, I'll go see what's wrong. Don't worry, okay? I won't let anything happen to you." They shared a glance before giving me a grim nod. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I proceeded toward my room. Just to be safe, I grabbed the baseball bat lying by the door that Tommy had forgotten to put away. My heart pounded in my chest with each step I climbed. I didn't know what I was going to find when I opened that door, but it certainly was not the scene that I walked into. I eventually reached the top landing and stood outside my bedroom. I pressed my ear to the door and listened, but I couldn't hear anything. "Come on, Hannah, just get it over with. It'll all be over soon." I mustered up every ounce of courage I had, and I burst into the room. I was shocked at what I saw. My husband stood in front of the vanity mirror. He was applying a fresh layer of makeup. Clown makeup. His face was stark white, with black streaks running down from his eyes, like he'd been crying motor oil. He wore a polka-dotted jumpsuit with a red, scraggly wig and big floppy shoes. This couldn't be happening. It had to be some kind of nightmare. The second I entered, I froze, and he turned toward me. "Connor, what is this? What are you doing?" The clown began to giggle. It's been such a long time, Annie. It's good to see you again. He was using Connor's vocal cords, but that voice was not the one I knew. It was higher pitched, yet soft, like an entertainer speaking to a child. All the color drained from my face. I raised the baseball bat prepared to swing. That's not my name. You give me my husband back, you sick freak. The thing wearing Connor's skin frowned, its big red lips drooping animatedly. Annie, is that really the way to treat your long-lost pal? Mr. Pip missed you. I couldn't take it anymore. I swung as hard as I could, tears blurring my vision. I missed, lurching forward as the bat crashed into the bed frame. I instantly knew that I'd messed up, because a second later, I felt the cool, sharp glint of a blade against my throat. Listen here. You will do what Mr. Pip asks, or he will drive the tip of this knife into your skull while your children watch. Do you really want that, Annie? My breath hitched in my throat. No. Good girl, he said, shoving me away. Downstairs, now. I immediately thought to call the cops, but he was right behind me. I couldn't get to my phone without him seeing. Instead, I was forced to march down the stairs and over to the table where my children sat, petrified. The clown led me to a chair beside Tommy while he claimed one beside Alice. My heart shattered for my baby girl. I couldn't imagine how scared she must have been. Hello again, kids. Mr. Pip is happy to see you. He didn't receive a response. I said, he growled, pounding his fist onto the table. Mr. Pip is happy to see you. He scowled at my children, who each wore a horrified expression. I'm happy to see you too, Mr. Pip, Tommy murmured, avoiding eye contact. Good. Was that so hard? His large, exaggerated smile returned as if it had never left. Tommy shook his head. Now, Annie, if you'll be so kind, will you get Mr. Pip a glass of water? He's parched. I nodded. Before I stood, I slipped Tommy my phone under the table, praying he'd know what to do. Tommy was a smart kid. He was our only shot. Did you children know that your mommy and Mr. Pip were on television together? Annie was the star of the show. Though I wanted to scream with every fiber of my being, I didn't utter a peep. I simply poured a glass of water and walked back to the table. This thing, it was using my husband as a vessel to get to me. I just had to play into its little game and everything would turn out okay. Right. Mr. Pip, Tommy said, his voice shaky. Yes, Tommy, he replied, turning his attention to my son. Can I go to the bathroom? Our captor thought it over, eyes traveling to the ceiling, knife tapping absent-mindedly against his chin. Mr. Pip supposes that would be all right, but hurry back. You wouldn't want to miss out on the fun. Tommy nodded, then trotted away, acting like he really had to pee. I couldn't have been more proud in that moment. But then I was reminded of the task at hand. I returned to the table and handed the glass of water to the clown who had my daughter at knife point. I watched as he took a sip. Then my heart dropped. His face immediately twisted and a deep frown overtook his countenance. He shot up from his chair, locking eyes with me. This is warm. Without breaking eye contact, he smashed the glass on the floor. Try again. I trembled as I did what he asked. I waited for the water to get cold and then I threw in a couple of ice cubes from the freezer for good measure. My hand shook as I handed over the new glass. The clown greedily snatched it up. He downed the entire thing, ice cubes and all, before looking me directly in the eyes. Much better. He grinned. Something in that smile felt deeply sinister. It only grew wider as he smashed the second glass on the ground. Take off your shoes. What? Take off your shoes, he repeated in a sickly sweet sing-song voice. But I did as I was asked. I don't understand. Take them off. You're making Mr. Pip very angry, Annie. You wouldn't want that now, would you? he asked, his eyes falling to Alice. I shook my head. No. I stripped off my shoes and tossed them aside. Socks too. I could feel the blood pounding in my ears as I obeyed his commands. Now walk, he said, pointing to the room over. That twisted grin so wide that his face paint was cracking. Please don't make me do this, I said, tears welling in my eyes. Don't make Mr. Pip repeat himself. Walk. I glanced at him through the tears blurring my vision. He was standing behind Alice's chair now, knife on full display. I had to do this. I couldn't let him hurt my daughter. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and plunged my bare foot forward into the hundreds of glass shards littering the floor. My eyes shot back open as the pain seared through my foot like lightning. I yelped, instinctively pulling it back. Keep going, the clown demanded. The eager glimmer in his eyes made me want to vomit. He was reveling in this. I gritted my teeth and leaned on the table for support. I motioned to place my hurt foot back down, but I didn't get the chance. Not that one. Now it's time to put your best foot forward. He cackled, his boisterous laughter reverberating off the walls. No one else so much as twitched. I turned back to find the knife pressed to Alice's side. Her eyes were wide and her bottom lip was trembling. I didn't have a choice. I applied pressure to my injured foot, a debilitating pain roaring through every synapse. I leaned even harder on the table, grateful at least for that tiny blessing. I hovered my right foot over the broken glass for a moment, before I took the next step. I released an audible shriek as my right foot was sliced to ribbons. A pool of blood had blossomed around me, mingling with the spilled water and glass fragments. Everything hurt. I nearly collapsed, but somehow I remained standing. I glared back at the sadistic clown holding a knife to my daughter's neck. Very good, Annie. I hated that voice, I hated him. But that phrase, as much as I loathed it, gave me a little sense of comfort. Maybe he was satisfied. Maybe that was it. Now do it again. A cold dread swallowed me like a python. This couldn't be happening. What? You heard me, Mr. Pip said, do it again. Stars swam in my vision as I glanced back at the mess on the floor. I was losing a lot of blood. I didn't know how much more I could take. I turned wincing as the glass shards shifted beneath my flesh, and I prepared to follow his command. The pain was so immobilizing that I felt like I was going to pass out. I lifted my left foot, droplets of blood falling to the ground. I squeezed my eyes shut and, "Police, drop your weapon!" That sound was music to my ears. I looked at the thing in my husband's body. His smile had melted into a deep frown. But we were having so much fun. Oh well, goodbye, Annie, for now. I watched as the menacing glint left his eyes. His demeanor changed in an instant. The clown blinked a couple of times, then his eyes fell to the knife. He seemed shocked to be holding it. He let it slip to the floor as the officers moved in. "Hannah, what's going on? Why is there so much blood on the floor? Why am I wearing this?" A new kind of horror struck me in that moment. My Connor was back, the sweet, loving husband and father that I knew, and he was being led away in cuffs. It's been 2 months since Connor's arrest, and I'm still having trouble processing what happened. It took a long time to heal from my injuries. I needed stitches and I had to stay off of my feet for weeks. The kids haven't had any interest in visiting their father while he's been detained. I don't blame them either. His decision to use that Ouija board opened a wound that we can never close. The trauma inflicted that day will last a lifetime. Even so, I know that my husband isn't the bad guy. He's a victim too. God, I wish I could just make all of this go away. I want to go back to being a big happy family again, but I know that we can't do that. And I have a feeling that as bad as things are now, they're just going to get worse. Because I can't shake the last thing that clown told me from my head. Goodbye, Annie. For now.